Small Talk. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Small Talk. You already know, two queens, two perspectives, one topic. But today we are joined by another beautiful queen, Stephanie, aka Brunch Bae. How are you, Stephanie?
Yes, so excited to be here. Thank y'all for having me.
Yes, we're excited. Brittany, what are we talking about today?
All right, let's hop into it. We are talking about friendships today. Friendships in terms of like, nah, that's just a homegirl. Nah, that's just a homeboy. What does that mean? First and foremost. And secondly, like, how do y'all feel about you having a bunch of guy friends or your dude?
Whew. Who's starting? Y'all want me to start?
You can go ahead and start, sis.
This is such a lovely topic. I'm so glad I was brought on for this one. So I always start off with, I grew up with three brothers, right? So I just feel like I genuinely like was drawn more to kind of like males versus female friends, just because I felt like mindset wise we'd be on the same level, right? Like a homegirl could tell me a story or something and I'm like, yeah, girl, that's stupid, and it's just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. So, like my homeboys, they love it because they're like, oh, you're so real, you so raw, whatever, But then also I think I've had the homeboys where it's been purely genuine, where they're like, oh, you're really cool people or whatever. And I've also had the homeboys and have the homeboys that like, I'm sure at some point in time, there was either some type of attraction or it's like, oh, just wait. I'm just waiting for me to be able to shoot my shot. Right. And I'm in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you kind of have to be really careful with those friendships. And I think for females, like we more so know which ones are which ones are the ones who like, oh, you would never try me. And which ones are the ones I'm like, I don't want to get drunk around you because you might want to take me home.
Right.
And I'm sure, both of y'all can relate as far as like just having homeboys that kind of flip flop on either side. I will say I guess because I've had so many like homeboys, I've never really been concerned with like, let's say the person I'm dating having homegirls or anything like that. I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's never really been an issue. I feel like as long as you're open and honest, right? Like if you got your best friend Becky and like y'all go brunch together, whatever else, like I'm like, okay, cool. I know I've heard you speak of this person before. I know how you know her. Maybe I've met her at a certain point in time. I think it gets a little fishy when it's like, oh, this is Jessica. And I'm like, who the freak is Jessica? Like never heard of Jessica before. Hey Jessica, we going to brunch together.
Right.
That's the only time I think it's kind of whatever, but I think open communication is the most important thing. So let me not ramble and toss it over to whoever.
No, I completely agree with that. I think something that you said for me is really big because I'm also the type that I have both sides, right? Like I have the homies that it's like, no, like that's really just my friend. But I feel like now when you say like, that's just my friend, you will get the side eye like, but is that really your friend? Like, right. But does he feel a kind of way towards you? And to be fair, like how you were saying, like sometimes like I will know if they've tried something or if they might have like a certain attraction or not. But when it comes to like my dude having a homegirl, I don't know which one she is. Right. And she might not be explicit with which one she is. So I'm kind of like, And where y'all know each other from? Cool. And is she single? No? Okay. Right. Well, we're friends now. All of us are friends now.
Exactly.
Right.
I feel like some of them some people like hide stuff, right? Because so Stephanie, you said like, oh, you can kind of know, I've had some homeboys that I never thought anything because they hadn't tried anything before actually try me and then try to backtrack and be like, oh, but we're just friends, right? Like, nah, bro, you just crossed the line. Like,
interesting.
I don't know. But then like, so then you don't really want to throw away these types of friendships, right? So then when you hop into a relationship, in the back of your mind, you already know homie didn't tried it, but he's still cool. Y'all are still cool. But then you're looking at your man like, hey babe, this is Jeffrey. You know what I'm saying?
And he's like, what up, Jeff? What's good?
Exactly.
Let us know.
It's one of those things where like I'd also like to ask y'all like how far do you go? You know, like how much do you tell your significant other about your quote unquote friend? You know, if something really did happen.
I think time frame matters. I think it's like, if I've had this homie for like years, right? And like, I don't know, maybe, I don't want to say we've messed around, but maybe it's been like, you know, we'll go on little outings where like he might have grabbed my hand at a certain point in time, or like, I don't know, kiss on the cheek, nothing crazy, like not slept with anybody or anything like remotely that close. And he's been my friend for like, I don't know, 6 years or something. And then like, I'm dating this dude that I've known for like 6 months. Like, you know, like I might not tell you everything. Right. About like that initial friendship or whatever, versus like, if this is like my man of I don't even know how long, then it's like, okay, I feel like that information needs to be shared with you. I have a podcast, and it's funny because we did a topic similar to this, and we were talking about like, one of the dudes on the podcast, he was like, I don't want to know, like Joe's song or whatever, I don't want to know, like, he was like, don't tell me, I don't whatever. But I'm like, I just feel like I would feel away if it was me. And it's like, we at like my homeboy's barbecue, and you like, yo, yeah, Billy's super dope. Like, I want to go play ball with him next week. I'm be like, okay, like, don't get too close, you know, like, y'all don't got to kick it on the weekend, you know, because I'm like, low key, like, while y'all kicking it, he's like, dang, like, I know I'm better than you do. Like, I would treat you better. And I'm like, see, now we have a problem.
In a sticky situation at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And that just reminds me of like this meme. I don't know if I sent it to Britt. I don't know if you remember it, but it was like a homeboy and his girl, and then he invited his homegirl over for dinner or lunch or something, and like the girl was like making her man's, you know, food and everything else, and the homegirl was like, oh, he likes, I don't know, something, he likes pepper on his steak. I was like, see, that's why when you mention like, oh, if it's a homegirl, I feel like homegirl, like homeboys will hide it, but homegirls, like, they'll be petty with it. You know, like they'll be like, remember the time in Maui?
No, we don't.
It's like, no, there was no time in Maui.
We don't remember, right?
Exactly.
Collectively don't remember that. So you need to stop.
But I was like, how dare you? But it was just funny because it's just people. I feel like women will kind of straddle the lines a little bit more than the dudes will. Like, they'll just patiently wait because they feel like they know it's gonna come. But like with women, they want you to know, like, oh, this is your little girlfriend. Like, I'm not little. Yeah.
That is so true. No, that's really true. And I think, and my rule has always been, whenever I'm like dealing with somebody, I actually do say like, hey, these are the guys that are really close to me, right? That have been friends with me for, like, I have best friends that have been guy friends that I've been friends with for 12 years. Right.
Exactly.
And it's like, hey, just so you know, these are the names that you should be familiar with. Now look,
I like that.
I also need to know what name should I be familiar with. And I always say, because my number one rule, do not have me out here looking crazy. That's my rule. And I make that very known, very clear. So like you said earlier, if I've heard the name Jessica, like, okay, cool. I'm not going to look, you know, a certain way or whatever. But if Susie come up, I'm sorry, we've never heard of Susie. Where did we meet Susie?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because like, oh, now all of a sudden you have best friends that I've never heard of before.
And don't let it be a best friend. Don't let it be a best friend.
Right.
That's a thin line. That's another word that I feel like is consistently played with. Like, oh, this is just my best friend from, or oh, this is just my. The word homie.
Remember back in the day used to be brother. Remember back in the day?
Brother. This is my brother. Yes, brother and sister. That's exactly what it is.
You don't mess around with your siblings, so that's not your brother.
Your brother's calling a little too late. He can call back tomorrow. I don't know. I feel like there is a thin line, and it's one of those things where, AJ, I got that same policy. Like, I'm telling you off rip who these people are. So when they do confront me, because they are genuinely my friends, like that's literally one of my homeboys or one of my close dudes that I grew up with, you know who it is and you're not left in the dark, you know? But I feel like women, we also kind of have a better way of kind of like not saying too much. You know what I'm saying?
It under wraps.
Yeah. And then just like you said, Stephanie, like, if the dude does tell, you know, like if my dude tells me about a girl and the girl is being petty, as women, we kind of do that already naturally. Like, oh, so this is who she is. This is the girl you've been bragging about, or whatever. Exactly what you said, you know. But like when it's flipped, the dude's not gonna do that.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. Yeah,
nope. Like, No, we're not doing that, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I think even with the level of comfortability too, right? So like even as women, like we're kind of touchy and feely. So it's like that might be like my homeboy where I'm like, slap you on the knee, and his girl's looking at me like, you know what I'm saying? Like versus a dude, he's not gonna like mistakenly throw his arm over my shoulder, you know?
Yeah.
So you kind of also have to be cautious of, and I know I've done that where it's like homeboys have gotten into relationships and I was still around, but like I definitely pulled back without them telling me anything because I'm like, I don't even want her to feel a type of way. You know what I'm saying? And the other thing, I actually was talking about this yesterday. It's so funny. You know, I feel like the three queens in this room are very attractive and beautiful women that like can automatically just throw somebody off, right? So like, even if there's nothing, there's never been anything between you and this person, you might bring up, hey, this is my homegirl from however many years. And then she sees you just off rip and she's like, oh, this is your homegirl, quote unquote, that you've known for some time, that you guys are so close. Like they used to sleep on your couch, quote unquote. Like, yeah, I've never touched her, but because they see how you look, they're just like, they don't believe it, you know? And I've had homeboys too that they'd be like, some of my homeboys is cocky. They'd be like, yeah, if your nigga saw me, he wouldn't want you to be friends with me. Don't even, like, I got homeboy, you know, whether light skin, dark skin, like in good shape, light eyes, whatever. And I'm just like, sir, he is not concerned with you, nor will he be, you know, like if you're secure with yourself, you know, but I understand that dynamic because I mean, I'm trying to think if like my dude was like, oh, this is whoever, and she was like a supermodel, like I might be like, so you never, you know, you sure? So
you're out on a date, Steph. Out on a date. I already know because you're brunching with Bae. You already know all the hot spots in Atlanta. Actually, you know the hot spots everywhere because you.
We got Dallas, DC, New York. What's good?
So with you being that, I know a lot of people hit your phone all the time when they're in town. Steph, where we at? What we doing? And it's cool when it's female, right? Group of females. But when it's and they're like, yo, we're here. And Atlanta's a hot spot. Where can we have brunch or whatever? And you go. If your dude were to walk in and see you sitting there, whether it's a homeboy that's in town or a group of homeboys in town, how do you think that they were like, or how do you think he will perceive what you got going on?
I think just like how we mentioned, I think open communication, right? So like if I were doing anything or going anywhere, most of the time, like my dude's gonna know, right? Like I'm getting ready with him on FaceTime, like, oh, I'm about to link up with Billy and them or whatever. They came into town. He's gonna know they're in town. He's gonna know how long I've known them for or whatever. And not even on some like, oh, I have to tell because it's like you have to ask permission, but it's really just like that's how close, you know, of a relationship you should have where it's just like, you know, like, oh yeah, such and such is in town, whatever. Like even like I would tell, you know, my best friend or whatever, right? So like, hey, such and such is in town. So it's not going to be a pop-up. Like if you pulling up, it's because you know I'm there and you wanted to come and see what the vibe was. And my homeboys are very like, I think for the most part, the ones that you know, there is no kind of like wishy-washy lines in between. Like they're very like on the, you know, I'm the little sister or the oldest sister, whatever. Mostly the little sister. So they come into town. And it might just be like, it's funny that you mentioned brunch. It literally, I've been to brunch where it's like me and like 6 dudes around the table, right? Like that we went to high school with or whatever. Like, you know, shout out to C. Reed, to the home team or whatever. That, you know, they come to town and they know like, I'm going to show them a good time, right? So it's like, you're going to see us having mimosas and this and that or whatever. But like what you're not going to see, like I said, is like nobody's arm over my shoulder. You're not going to see, you know, about me sitting on nobody's lap. You're not going to see, you know what I'm saying? Like anything that's going to look kind of weird or crazy. But there, I think in a situation where it might be less people, it could look like something like, oh, dang. Like I always had the conversation where, let's say if it was just me and one homeboy. Right. And then like, let's say one of like my dude's friends saw me and they're like, oh yeah, I seen her out with this dude. And you take a picture, like in that picture, it might just look like I'm on a date. You know what I'm saying? So, but if I've had that conversation beforehand, so gentlemen, those of you that are going to tune in, just have that conversation. Because then if another female sends me a picture of my dude with some girl, I'll be like, oh, that's Jessica. They went to go have lunch today at 2:00 and he'll be done at 4. You know, like, so vice versa, it would be the same thing. Like, if somebody were to even attempt that, he'd be like, yeah, it's her homeboy that's in town. She's known him since 2nd grade. His last name is Jeffries. Like, you know, so I think that's the easiest way to cover your bases. Yeah.
I think that's so true. Just having, like you're saying, just open communication, I think, is key, especially when I feel like when we get in any type of relationship, like when you have that first initial conversation, like, oh, what's important to you? Everybody says communication, but it's rare that people actually do it.
Yep.
And it's like, it doesn't have to be, and I tell my best friend all the time, like, it doesn't have to be this event of a conversation. It's literally, if you could talk about, hey, how was your day? Da, 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 da. You could talk about anything, right?
Yep.
Or you should be able to. And I think it also comes down to the homegirl or the homeboy also understanding the boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's one of those things, and I've had conversations with my male friends of like, hey, I have a man now, so I'm not going to need to call you as often as I did before,
I'm not gonna
right?
need you
Because
to
then
call
why
me.
do I have, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, because like, why would I have my man then? You know what I'm saying? If you have a homeboy or a homegirl that's doing everything besides maybe like sleeping together or whatever, then what is the point of you even having a relationship? Like, there should be clear boundaries.
Can I just chime in on that? Listen,
yes.
I literally told this to my homeboy the other day. I'm like, because I have like homeboys that are really, really like, they look out for me. They're down for me. Like I said, just the way that my brothers are. And I was telling him, I was like, I wouldn't date a dude who my homeboys did more than what the dude did. Exactly what you just said, right? Yep. So if like I can call them, they come to the rescue or whatever, but I call my dude and it's like, oh, I'm busy, or even things as small as like complimenting, right? If I got my homeboys that like I get ready, they like, dang girl, you look good, okay, you out here. Right. And then I call my dude and he's just like, oh, what's up, babe? Oh, you about to head out? That's what's up. I'll be like, I don't need to be with that person. And my homeboys are like, oh, you can't compare, who you're dating to us and whatever else. And I'm like, yes, I can, because to me, like my homeboy shouldn't have more interest in me or more concern for my health or more friggin' compliments for me than my dude does. And to me, like he was just like, oh no, you can't think like that. And I'm like, I'm not going to be with somebody who I have other people that do more than that person does.
Yeah.
So,
and that ties into like just understanding your roles, right? So like as your boyfriend, you're my boyfriend. I expect you to fulfill these things that are like common things in a relationship.
Right.
My homie's over here texting me, hey, or just random like, hey, beautiful, what's up? What's going on? And that's the way he talks. You already know, Steph. We have friends that naturally use the words like babe or beautiful.
Right.
That's their lingo, So when you get with a dude and they're not using some of those terms or complimenting you, or
and it might not even be nothing wrong about them. That just might not be how they like communicate or whatever else. They're not used to like gassing you up or whatever. But I'll be damned if my homeboys gas me more than my dude.
Right.
Does. So, and I'll tell you too, I'm going to give you the opportunity to be like, yo, so even something as simple as like, let's say with your podcast, right? Where it's just like, oh, dang, like you got your homeboys. I was like, yo, I saw your last episode. That was dope. Da, da, da. And I'm looking at Bae like, so, like I'm gonna tell you, I'm like, it's kind of sad that I got homeboys that like are more supportive of me than you are, and like either you gonna pick it up or you gonna be like, oh dang, it's not really my thing. I'm like, then this isn't my thing, like that's just how that's gonna go. Or even something as simple as like, you go being out and your homeboy like, oh yeah, let me know you made it safe, and your dude doesn't, like, oh, I'm about to head to bed. Right. Okay, wait a minute, so you can get cut real quick.
Yep. Defining those roles, man. Understanding that, that's just a homie is simply just a homie. Like it just said, boundaries are real important, because I feel like a lot of people cross those boundaries all the time. Like how often, the biggest thing, I'm going to say this right quick. The biggest thing is, at least for me in my relationships, has been like, and this is swinging us another way, phone calls, right? And time limits and time frames on phone calls.
Yes.
So if I pick the phone at 11 o'clock at night and I'm like, nah, I'm just talking to the homie, it's 11 o'clock though, or it's 12, or it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I've never been the type of person that kind of puts like stipulations on phone calls, because there are friends that genuinely call because they're stuck on the road. And that goes back to like, you have those friends that do things for you. I got a flat tire. I always go to this friend, so I'm going to call them at 2 a.m. Not knowing, okay, now he has a girl, though. How is she going to perceive that? So,
or even knowing, but if she calls, right, and she's just like, hey, tell Britt I'm so sorry, but like I'm literally stuck on the road, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you're not going to feel away, like versus it's like, hey, like I need you, blah, 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 whatever. Like, what does she need us for? Like,
right. We are on our way.
Yeah. As long as it's respectful, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's like, oh, no, she shouldn't be calling you at this time because of whatever the scenario might be. And if right? If it's like a name, like we said, that you've heard 1,000 times before, like, oh, that's such and such, tell her what's up. You know what I'm saying? Versus somebody you've never heard of, like, what is Cynthia calling us for? Because, you know,
Yeah.
so
It's true. But I also think also it's about like how often is this happening, right? Because I think it's very
true.
different when it's a homegirl that's like, okay, like I got a flat tire, wherever the case may be, as compared to every night she just needs you, you know what I'm saying? She needs that conversation, or she feels alone in her house, or he just can't go to sleep. You know what I'm saying? All types of things, or he's always on his lunch break at a certain time, and that's the time y'all talk every day. For me, that's a little too much. Like, even once again, like my best friend, whom I've been best friends with for years, we still have those boundaries of like,
is it a male best
hey,
friend? Okay.
and it's like, hey, we don't have to talk every single day. We just don't have to. And we don't need to talk at 12 midnight because you're having, you know, because you having trouble going to sleep.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be me. And that's okay.
Yeah. I definitely get that. Like I said, those are the same things that I know I put into place, like with homeboys, where it's like you got into whatever relationship. I'm like, okay, bet I'm gonna start pulling back, you know, and they're like, no, come out with us, come this, come that. I'm like, I don't want her to feel the type of way about our relationship, because even like on the looking out for you, right? Like I'll go out with my homeboys where it's like automatically they gonna get me my favorite drink, they're gonna this and that, whatever. Right. So now with your girl, she might look like, oh, you brought a drink for her too. You know, and it's like, I always do that. So I'm like, so I don't even put you in an awkward situation. I'm going to just excuse myself or whatever else, you know? So.
Yeah. It's just understanding y'all friendship too. Like, I feel like if you're comfortable enough in your friendship, like we said 1,000 times already in this pod, that you'll know the person. You'll know the person. I should be able to walk into, I want to be so comfortable that if I had to make a quick grocery store run, and I feel like this about Miss Brunch with Bae here. If she's sitting on my couch and I have to go to the grocery store or something, and my dude is here, Stephanie already know. These hands are always holy. So I just kind of feel like you have to have those level of, and that she's a girl, so like that's our friendship, you know. But even with the dude, if I leave my homie in here, or if he leaves another girl in here or something like that, you just have to have like your levels of comfort in your friendship to know that, one, they're not going to spray you, two, they're not about to do something off the wall crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if it's me that has to run to the store and your homegirl's over here and this is your sister, I should be able to go to the store in my house and not come back with your clothes off in our room. Like, and there's people that are old enough to try that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you make me feel comfortable and she's not a secret, or y'all not secretly going at lunch, or consistently seeing her, or consistently, like you said, talking to her on the phone all types of times of the night, whether I know about it or not, just make me feel comfortable. Because once I feel comfortable, I'm already secure enough within myself. But I also want to make sure that, okay, I'm not giving you enough leverage to kind of disrespect too. Because there's a lot of respect there, whether we give it or not. Like, automatically we should know how far to go to respect our partners that we're with. So
that low key kind of, not to keep reminding or whatever, but as you're talking, I'm just having little flashbacks or whatever. Cause like, now that I think about it, like, you used to be really good at that, right? So like, I don't know if y'all know the background with me and Britt, but this bestie from like 1,000 years since diapers. But I'm just thinking about like, when you would get in a relationship, you had that like it was either 10:30 or 11 o'clock rule, where like homeboys were not allowed to call after that time. So they knew, like, if they were going to call like 10:28, they're like, I know I only have 2 minutes, but I'm here, you know? So that, and then also like on the other end, how you said with like leaving people in the same room or stuff, I just remember times where either like I might have had a guy over or whatever, vice versa. And like, if you slept over or something, like you had this thing with, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but with wearing shorts. Right? Like, where like Britt is, you know, beautifully endowed on the backside. So like, if she stayed over and I had like a dude over, like, she'll literally like, oh, he's going to be here in 5. Like, she'll change from her like, you know, sleep shorts or whatever to like sweatpants, you know? And I'm like, girl, I don't, like, to me, I'm like, if my nigga looking at you, like, then that's between me and him or whatever. Or even if it's something disrespectful, there's going to be beautiful women everywhere you go. If it's disrespectful, that's him disrespecting me. That's not the female. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even going to turn to her because I didn't have an agreement or a commitment with her. Right. Of course, it's different because this is a friend. But I just, as you were talking, I was just like, she used to have this thing. Like, she would just be like, or if it was somebody else, like, you going to change out of those shorts for my man gets here? Like, oh, okay. You just like, okay, let me go put these pants on, you know? But it's just little things like that, that like, if you're respectful then, and I know you're in a relationship, like I'm not going to do certain things, right? Like I'm going to, like you said, be able to go to the store and not be worried about like, oh, you're in your shorts. And you know that y'all have seen like that meme where the girl's in the kitchen and she got her little booty shorts on, and then like the person who actually like is dating the guy went to the store and they're like, fellas, you walk in the kitchen and your homegirl's roommate is in the kitchen looking like this, what do you do, type of stuff. Like my roommate's not gonna be in the kitchen looking like that, you know? So it's just funny that you mentioned that, because I thought about it. I was like, she did have that little rule in the 10:30 and they knew better. So yeah.
I think that's so dope, just being able to, like, it's one of those things. It's like, yes, we all have different types of friends, right? Like we have our homies, we have our homeboys, our homegirls, all that kind of stuff, but really just understanding and prioritizing respect, prioritizing understanding boundaries and roles, but still being able to have that genuine friendship, you know what I'm saying, that you might have had with an individual.
Yeah.
So I think all the things are like, do you, but understand, you know, just understand
this is what it is,
where the limits are, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that's super dope. This has been just a great conversation, I think, in general. As always, Steph, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Brunching with Bae. Make sure you hit her up, follow her socials, all of that. And this has just been another episode of Small Talk. 2 queens. Today we have 3 queens, 3 perspectives, 1 topic. We will catch y'all on the next episode. Take care.
Peace.